Hello and welcome to the channel. In the previous video we saw how to create a simple Sudoku solver in Excel using VBA macros, of course. And we created the first macro, which was adding the numbers from 1 to 9 to the puzzle to potential locations where they could fit in. In this video we will create the second macro, which is actually called from the first one, and this second macro will check if the number is unique within a row, column, or block, and then in that case it will add it to the solution. So let's see how to do that. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this as 1 to 9, right, as it should be, and we're gonna have the second macro down here. Let's call it solve number. And now we are not gonna loop through each cell as we did here. We could actually, but it's better to loop by box or block, right? And to do that, we're gonna have two nested loops. And I know it sounds a bit complicated. I wanted to do this video. Um, I wanted to explain this in an easier way, but there's no really easier way to explain this. Um, I have explained that in a previous video when generating puzzles. It's the same nested loops we use, and of course you can go back to here to my blog. If you click on Sudoku, you will see several articles here. This one could be useful if you are starting. Um, and then if you have a look at the generator, you will see I explained there how to have these nested loops. And of course, you can always get the Sudoku Excel macros guide where I explain everything in detail here. But now going back to this, we're gonna have uh, the two loops for, and let's call this grid column from 2 to 10, right? And then another loop for grid row. And we're gonna step 3 cells each time because this is gonna target the top left corner of each box. Let me see if it's the picture is included here. I don't remember. Oh yes, this is the picture I wanted to show you. So you see there are some gray colors on those cells. This double loop or nested loop is looping through those gray cells. Okay, so we're gonna be looping through the 9 blocks. And then we're gonna have yet another loop for each cell in that box. So for each cell in the temporary sheet, which was sheet 2 dot range, and we're gonna use again the box RNG function, but now for grid row. So first the row and then the column, and it doesn't matter if we use I mean here it doesn't matter if we loop first through rows and then through columns, but here is important, right? Because the function accepts first the row as you see here and then the column. And then with the special cells we're gonna target only constants. There's a mistake in this formula. Yeah, there's a missing parenthesis here. So now if that cell dot value is the number that we are adding, so it will run for number 1, number 2, number 3. So when we are number 1 and we call that macro, we're gonna do it here. So if for that number it's in the cell, then we're gonna check if it is unique within the column, row, and box, right? As we explained earlier, this is the place where we're gonna check it. So we can somehow reuse the code that we created here, it's gonna be a little different. Um, so let me copy paste it here. So now what we are doing now is to see if in sheet 2 for our number it's the only one in the row, or one of those three possibilities, right? In sheet 2, again, let me change it here as well, is 1, or it means is unique within the row, is unique within the column, or also here, let me change, sheet 2 is only 1 in the box. So, and the other thing we need to change here, we didn't define these variables here, so let's put it cell.row, cell.column, and the same here, right? Or we could declare again that, but I think that's faster. Now we add it. When it meets any of those conditions, we can add it to sheet 1, cells, cell row, cell column, value, the number, and if, and the other if here. And we can go to the next cell. Now we need to add a couple of things here. And of course, we need to go here to the next grid row and the next grid column. But we need to add a couple of things here because that would prompt many errors. The first thing is we should check if our number is in that box. If the number is not there, we don't need to go through all this verification, right? So here we say worksheet function count if where in this box, in sheet 2 in this box, and our number is more, the count of our number is more than 0, then we can go through this process. And let me end the if here. So this is getting now a little bigger and complex, but hopefully you follow. So let me put some spaces here. And also down here. Only in that case we will run this other loop. And another important thing is that we have to exit the for loop when we solve a number. So now let's see how that works. So this macro solve number is the one that we have to call down here after we add each number. So for number 1, when we add the number, we go through this loop to add all the number 1s, and then we call the solve number macro. Let's run it for number 1. Probably nothing will happen because, as we saw before, there wasn't any unique number 1 in the first round. And this is important. This will be the first round. Then we will check if any numbers have been added, and then we will go through another round and as many rounds as needed. But we will see that later. So let's run it now. And so you could have a third sheet if you want. I'm gonna have here the original puzzle, just in case while testing, we need to go back and start. So I'm gonna copy that here. And this is, you don't need to pay attention to this tab. It's just where the original puzzle is, because now we're gonna see how numbers are added here. And for number 1, we don't expect any numbers, but for number 2, we saw that there was a potential number 2 that was unique here. So let me go back now to the code. And a very important thing we still need to do is to declare the variable number. We can either declare it up here at the module level, as an integer. So if we declare it up here, can be used by this macro and also by this macro. And the other possibility is just to pass it as a parameter. And now if I run it for number 2, we see that, yeah, here's number 2 solved in that place where potentially could be added. I don't know if there was any other. I don't think so. Our macro has already solved one number. And now we can go, let's have a look at number 3. So first, let's run it without calling the solve number macro, okay? If I run it like this, we can only see what has been done here in the temporary sheet. So number 3 has been added in several places, as you see. And where is it unique? Well, definitely here. Yeah, because it was number 3 in the original puzzle. Also this one here. Is there, how many 3s there are? There are 3 or 4. Okay, so those 3 were original. Now, there is also, no, I don't think there is any other. Oh yeah, there's this one, was also in the original. Yeah. So I don't think 3 is gonna be solved. Let's run it calling the solver and see if we got any other 3. Oh, wait a minute, there is one. Yes, there is one here. This was not in the original. So this was solved also. Why was this solved? Let's go back here. Is this 3? Because this 3 is actually unique in this column and is also unique in this box. So that's why it was solved. So, and that's how it works. Now, if we decide to run it from 1 to 9, we see it has solved a lot of numbers, right? If we compare to with the original puzzle. And now, if we run it again, it will solve more, and so on. So we need to run this macro several times. You see what it's doing each time, and finally it has solved the puzzle. So what we need to do to run this macro several times is simply count whatever we have in Sudoku range, count the numbers up here, right before the loop. And then down here, after running this for 9 numbers, if there is a change, if some number has been added, then we repeat. We can use go to, or we can put all of this into another loop. So you can see, and as an example, you can download the file here and see how it's done. You can see the code, but keep in mind that this will only solve easy or maybe medium level Sudoku, maybe some difficult too, but not all of them, of course. So you also need to put some conditional statement somewhere to make sure that if it cannot solve, it exits the loop, right? And you can, of course, also put a conditional statement checking if the count, if the sum in the Sudoku range is 405 or the count 81, right? So you would add this conditional somewhere here to make sure that it doesn't repeat the whole thing again. So that's how we make a simple Sudoku solver in Excel using VBA macros. Thanks for watching.